Good morning. This is Dr. Annette Feravich, and I have a couple things I need to do, like go check that coffee because I know my water's about ready to boil. So give me a second, and we're here, but we've got a couple things to do, all right? I want you to see my flowers here that we made in Early Bird. I'm going to be right back. We actually have a new title, too. It's not this title, but let me think about it. Okay, so you are right to have noticed that it is the same, you know, title we had before. So what's up with that? Can we not think of a better title? And I had to be out in the sunshine, so we're going to get sunshine all over, like in weird things, but I need to keep it off my eyeballs, otherwise I can't see anything. But I did find my glasses. If you were here in the Bookless, I read the whole book without my glasses, and that was pretty blurry, actually. But we did it. It was a great story about Lincoln. I got emotional, which is the case for me, isn't it? I just get emotional at the drop of a hat. We're talking about slavery. We're going to get, I don't get emotional at the drop of a hat. Though that I didn't realize that Abraham Lincoln had a 21-year-old that had to basically tend to his mother and his body when he was killed, when he was shot. I also didn't realize that he had a dream about it, that he was going to die. So, and I'm assuming that Zachary just didn't take, a license as an artist to put a son in there who was 21 and to also have that dream. Lots of people I've noticed have dreams about death before they die. Yeah. There were a lot of interesting things I thought about that. And everyone thinks different things are interesting based on your different experiences. So, I found it interesting that he had a 21-year-old boy and that he had a premonition about it. I think most people would find that interesting about the premonition, though. I'm going to clean this up for just a sec. I haven't showed you, but they have been just dirtying up everything around here. I'll be right back. And as you can see, I actually mean that literally. I mean it literally. This plant I had to take down. And of course, the stuff that they get on here too is likely stuff that's going to take off my paint. So they just can't put something to make it messy. They also have to make it, they destroy. That's what they're doing here. They have been, Lucy, over here. And this is the beginnings of slavery. This is the beginnings of slavery, where they put people in predicaments and force them out of their homes, out of money, because their money just keeps going to things that they continuously destroy. And we're talking about killers. We're talking about killers. I mean, the kind of destruction that I'm talking about here on my property is killing my property. That's a federal crime. Destruction of property is a federal crime. And it's very apparent that nobody cares over here. And it's the reason why I have my philosophical classroom, All Cops Are Bad. Instead of cops standing up and, as in historically, just look at the stories. They're the biggest follow the leaders that there ever was. They don't ever think for themselves, ever. And it is the demise, it is causing the demise of our country. It's causing the demise of our people. It's causing the demise of our children and of our women. And this is modern day slavery. So we're going to go into what is slavery, and I do realize that that's the same title, which was another thing I was going to change it to. Today we're going to be doing because I know that we did it yesterday, the what is slavery, and I thought, well, we didn't actually do what is slavery. This is what I thought. I was thinking we didn't actually do what is slavery yesterday. We did why it's important to study at this time. How does it relate to your image? That's what we talked about yesterday. So it's going to change the title to yesterday's to Why Study Slavery, and I probably will. But today is we really are going to be like American slavery today. So that's the other thing that I want to do is change that. Oh, this is the one I want to change too, right here. So what did I say it was going to be? Why study slavery? That was yesterday. Which I will change out there. So this is, I just wanted to get these titles right, because if I don't get these titles right, and honestly, I did this like on the spur of the moment, as you can see. So I think I've got it all now. Coming to you live very soon. Okay. So, when I look at the title now, it's Slavery in America, Day 2 is what we're doing. We're here Day 68. Thank you so much for being with me, and thanks also for being patient. So, let's keep it this way, shall we? I think I've got it. I think I've got slaves. I've got shade. Unfortunately, you can't see the flowers that we made in Early Bird, but look at that! I'm actually a little bit proud of this. I hope you followed me. It took us 40 minutes to make all these flowers, and so and it's science. It is. We're learning that these flowers aren't alive. That's what we're learning in Early Bird. No. We're learning methodology in Early Bird Classroom for your info. We're not learning that these flowers aren't alive. Although not a bad topic for science, honestly. Not a bad topic for science to understand what is, alive and not alive. All right, so I've got some really bad, got a really bad reception here is what I have. All right, so slavery in America. So this is historic. We are going to move from, slavery and its impact on you into modern day slavery. And, of course, its impact on you again, right? So I'm looking at my signal because it's really bad and it's really choppy. And oh, there, it's better now. Okay. And we might lose one another. So I have to keep my eyeball on that. So how do we get from one place to another? Well, first of all, there's all kinds of misinformation, misunderstandings, right? And then preferences to have the world look this way instead of that way. And this person wants the world to look that way instead of this way, right? So all of these preferences that we have to make the world look like what we want it to look like. And what that does is that also helps us then be able to put a narrative on the future, which is really what most people are wanting to do. Put a narrative on the future. My party, my opinion, my, name, my legacy. So, I'm watching because I just blinked out again. So, so that's so we want to then look at a historical perspective of it to see how we got from there to here. And part of that has to do with, well, first of all, American history. We can see the way the human condition sort of moves by taking a look at a microcosm, which really isn't a microcosm, is it, right? American, and looking at American history. So the history of slavery in the United States. So that is going to help us, first of all, uncover some of the misconceptions that we might have about slavery. We can generalize the information that we're getting to an understanding that we have for other cultures or other countries and their experiences with slavery. Let's start with the kind of idea that how was this country settled? This country was settled by Spain coming over here and putting their stick in it and saying, it's ours. And then England coming over from another area and doing the same and dismissing any history or peoples that had occupied the land for millennia before we came here. So we see this culture of, we can call it imperialism. We often don't call it imperialism here in the United States when we do it. We call it imperialism when Japan does it, when England does it, when France does it, right? But we own Puerto Rico. It's not a state. Why not? Why do we have Puerto Rico? And by the way, Puerto Rico came up, and I haven't looked this up either, but Puerto Rico came up in our Bookless classroom as the generals of the United States during the Revolutionary War. If things didn't go well and they weren't dead, they had to go somewhere, right? Because England was going to, right? And so they had to go somewhere, so they were going to go to Puerto Rico. I read that. I didn't look into it. I didn't do a dive into it. So when we're talking, often in this class, another name for this class could be, as I've said many times, reading between the lines. So we want to figure out what we should know about slavery. And the main purpose of this, again, is to find out who you are. This is critical thinking classroom. It's to find out who you are. And we will make the same mistakes. We will not know who we are unless we know who our ancestors are, unless we know our history, right? And what motivated our ancestors. Oftentimes those motivations, even if they're culturally learned, are still inside of ourselves. those motivations we find from our ancestors are still inside of ourselves. Of course, it makes sense. If your grandfather said, the Confederates, and down with the Union, he probably heard his grandfather say it, right? Or depending on the timeline. So we certainly have our attitudes from our ancestors, and it likely doesn't have to do anything to do with DNA, right? We can share those attitudes, but those attitudes really go far, don't they? I mean, they make laws. Those attitudes make laws. So that's what we want to know. We want to know how a history of slavery got immersed in our system and our thinking and our being. That sun, when it hits you, man, it blasts on you. Lucy had to go inside because it's blasting. But it should be going that way, which makes this porch the better place. Although that's not for a long time. So I have to get my coffee, and we might waste some more time and go someplace else. But we're going to see. I got to get my coffee, and there's another thing I got to do. So we got our titles. I'll be right back. Now, I haven't got my coffee yet, but I do want to, what I am doing is getting this ready for you to take a look at. So, where is it? Oh, I didn't open it. Duh! Oh, there it is. I couldn't find it. How could I not find this thing? So this was a PowerPoint. Lucy, stop. No. that I gave to my classes. It just depended. I started this, actually I did this for a class that was I actually did this presentation for a character education class is what I put this together for. But I also did it for me, so that because I was learning so much about it, because it's like to affirmative action, and that wasn't like character education students don't really care about that. So there was a part of this that I really put together for me and for my purposes, since I found these wonderful videos in here as well. So yeah, so I got that, and let me. I could probably go ahead and get started with this. And let me see. I'm not going to be able to do it here, though. So I'm going to actually let you look while I'm doing the search, which I don't like doing, but I do all the time. It's like the search face. You got the search face. But just want to make sure the setup is, yeah, there we go. It's not. There we go. Now let's get this. Okay, there we go. So let me, while I go get some coffee, let's take a look at some of those dates, and we can take a look at this video, which is a short video, but it'll be enough for you to look at those dates, and then for me to get my coffee.
Slavery is very much in evidence in the nation's capital, and not a few foreign visitors make note of the fact that they come to the seat of American freedom and they are struck by the presence of American slavery.
So, one of the questions then becomes, for this entire lesson is, How free are we? That's what I want us to think about. Because in the end, this part of your image is going to be how free are you? That's what we're going to end up looking at. So that's what I think I'm going to change the name of the series to. So we'll start talking about slavery, but the real series is how free are you? And so I want you to think about this. We've been talking a lot about this in the Bookless classroom. So if you're not sure about, some of the background on the history, we've been talking about it since the Civil War, pretty much so. Since we started the Civil War, the series on the Civil War, we've been talking about slavery, one way or another. And how did it get into this country and still us having the reputation for being a free country? So in that statement, I'm going to play it again for you because it was so short, right? I want you to hear what they're saying again, and then I want you to, then I'm going to give you some more background from our Bookless classroom, our history lesson that we've got.
Slavery is very much in evidence in the nation's capital, and not a few foreign visitors make note of the fact that they come to the seat of American freedom and they are struck by the presence of American slavery.
And I couldn't hear the word he used there, and I don't want to necessarily play it a third time. But they're struck by the sight of American slavery. And we really want to think about that. We really want to think about what would you feel in that moment? What would you feel in that moment? That you came to this country for freedom. Let's just put it in those terms. Not everybody came here for the same reasons, but most people came here for freedom. They came here for religious freedom, to escape religious persecution, to escape unfair taxation, right, without representation. So they came here for freedom. Now I want you to feel that. And I know that's weird. That's like something a psychologist would say. I want you to feel. Tell me what you're feeling. Hey, by the way, I'm a psychologist. So yeah, I would say that. I do. I want you to get in touch with your feelings right there. If you were to come to this country for freedom and then see at our Capitol, our federal Capitol building, the White House, there at our federal Capitol in Washington, D.C., slaves are being sold. So ships are coming in and they're being taken off the ships, and right there, slaves are being sold. So, now you have given everything up except for whatever you were able to bring to have freedom. And you find out that there are certain people who not only aren't free, who aren't only not taxed the same way or follow any of the same freedoms that you came to this country for, and right before your very eyes, after you've given all of that up and traveled from afar, before your very eyes, you see the biggest example of no freedom at all as soon as you enter this country. What do you suppose you would feel about that? How do you suppose you would feel? And that's what I said. What are the feelings there? Because I think I would be scared to death. I would be scared to death that I made this life-changing decision and they didn't have the internet. It's not like you could look up what's really going on in the United States of America, look at the headlines. Not that that would tell you necessarily what you needed to know anyway, right? That wouldn't necessarily be telling you what you needed to know. So, (1619) the first 20 slaves are brought from Africa. 1641, Massachusetts. No, that's Maine. Maine legalizes slavery in 1641. 1787, Congress forbids slavery northwest of the Ohio River. So now this is where we are beginning to have laws come in against slavery prior to the Civil War that was basically splitting the North from the South because of slavery. I am sitting in this hot sun now. The only thing I have in the shade is my face over here, and it is boiling. I mean, it feels really good because it is finally, yeah, then I have my lunch break, right? Then I have my lunch break, so I can go a little bit longer. So I'm going to go a little bit longer and probably start my class, the spiritual classroom, a little bit later, because I know that we haven't gotten very far on this topic. One slide. But I'm gonna have to strip down to do anything else here, and that means this. And I am going to show you for a second the pile of black plants that never happen in nature that I had to cut down. Otherwise, I was afraid that they were going to get the rest of my plants and kill the rest of my plants. So this is the mold that they've been spraying on my plants that I've been complaining about for the last year, but they've actually been spraying on my plants for over the last 20 years. Or not over, for about the last 20 years. Maybe a little bit less than that. Actually, we had some good lawn people in the beginning, and then you know what they did? They bought out the contracts of the other lawn people is what they did. I know, I still know. Who are you to criticize me? Do you know that I just can't simply carry that by myself down the stairs? And that's why it's still there? Oh, Lucy hears. All right, moving outside. And it's damp still out here because we had 3 days of rain. Like torrential downpour raining. But it's over with, and look, did you see? Woo! And now I'm going to give you some nice view, not of me, but of the backyard. Well, I go grab some cushions. I don't think Lucy's going to stay out here because we have no sunshine, and that's really not her thing. Her thing is to get blasted with sunshine. But she was inside because it was hot in front. See what we have to put up with? Not that we're putting up with anything. Okay, everything is sopping wet still. So the front is just blasting with heat and the back is still sopping wet. Okay, sit over there. Okay. Oh! Sorry, I almost knocked you. There we go. So I got everybody to change scenes with me. Hairdo! I actually got it to settle down after yesterday's frizz frenzy. Oh, that's okay, isn't it? Ooh, yeah. Alrighty. Criticize me and my frizz ball hair? I don't think so. Let's go. So, let's take a look at some of the other info, or, well, I bet I have it here. So these are some of the laws that were being passed, that we're studying about in our Bookless classroom. But here we've got matching up some of those important dates with 1777. Vermont is the first to abolish slavery. Massachusetts declares in 1783 slavery unconstitutional. So what we are seeing here is we really are seeing a whole lot of laws that are being passed very early on in our history that would abolish slavery. And yet we have, oh, I know what I wanted to show you. Which one I want to show you? Let me see. Here's a map of all of the American Indian tribes. This is where we were looking at the Cherokee tribe here. But and that's a close-up that you can get of all the names of the tribes. But when we came over in search of freedom, what we did was we took away the freedoms. Oh, is that what I wanted? Of all of these individuals that were indigenous to this area. So all of those, you can see in the very small print that you have Indian tribes across every inch of this land. And all of those tribes were eventually displaced. They were either killed or put on reservations. And only 25% of the Cherokee Indians during the Trail of Tears survived. So, again, people are coming into this country in search of freedom and blasted by that hypocrisy, by the hypocrisy of, we were one of the last countries on the planet to outlaw slavery. And even now, we would have to be likely the leader in trafficking. Now, I know that's not what the stats say. What the stats say is that Asian countries and Middle Eastern countries, maybe not so much Middle Eastern, but Asian countries are well above us in percentages of trafficking. But I would have to say, who are they trafficking for? And I would have to say the top 1%, and that top 1%, they're primarily Americans. And then there's a trickle down of the trafficking, right? That goes along with that 1%. So where are they located? Where's that 1%? And then the trickle down for their whatever. So you got 2%. Where are they located? Well, we know Jeffrey Epstein was located here in the United States, right? I mean, maybe not his whatever, but again, it owned by an imperial country. So Bahamas owned by England. I'm almost sure of that. No, I'm not almost sure of it. Yeah, I am. So we've got Weinstein and who from Fox? So we've got the Jews in Hollywood. We've got the rich Republicans at Fox. We've got the liberal thinking Democrats with Epstein and whatever else that has attracted. So we certainly have. Where's the money? Where are the buyers? Who are the buyers? Where are they from? That's what I want to know. Who are the buyers, not the sellers? I mean, we've always been, with the prostitutes. It's always been the sellers. Who's selling? Who are the pimps? And who are the prostitutes? Who's selling? Never, ever have we put a spotlight on the buyers. And I think that it's the reason that we have not had an end to our slavery problems that we've had in this country since the beginning of time, because we haven't gotten rid of the people who have a vested interest in this system. And so in our Bookless classroom, we really are taking a closer look at who were these people in power, who were these generals that turned a blind eye to the laws that they were enforcing. To the blind eye to the yeah, that would probably be it. So there's our sheeple, by the way, right there. I've said it 1,000 times. You cannot get a better visual of sheeple than the people who climbed our Capitol building on January 6th. And many of those were in the name of military or police officer service. So you really are getting a line of sheeple there that are made on your tax dollars. And so they're the ones who are enforcing the law, which we're learning in Bookless classroom here. But until we put a spotlight on that line of thinking and then the changes in law that help perpetuate the system that we have today. I mean, anyone could defend, I'm sure, any instance, as we've seen on January 6th, which you think is indefensible. I think it's indefensible. But there are people who defend it, right? And there are people who say, why are you still talking about it? Because people defend it and it's indefensible. So even today, we see that people will defend, right? They will defend. So what we have to do is we have to break down what it is that we really want to support, what is freedom, and what did we fight in defense of. I want you to really think about what I just said. What did we fight in defense of? What were we defending here? Because it seems like just the status quo, which is such a mild word, a system of things, that's also mild. How about the machinery? How about the machinery and the years and the weight behind that machine? And what's the machine? Well, I think the machine is that 1%, top 1 to 2%. That's the machine, if you want to know what it is. And then you just look around and you see how well is the machine working. What looks like a machine? What looks like a machine? What looks like a machine? Soldiers look like a machine. Soldiers walk like a machine. Soldiers act like a machine. Soldiers talk like a machine. The top 1% is making machines. Okay, I'm going to go on my lunch break now, which is about right time. I wanted to pull up the map. I know where it is. I'll get it. I can't believe I'm going to get it. And I am. Like, I know where it is what I mean. I can't believe. All right. So this is from iCivics, which has lots of free material, which is historical material online. See all the way to the left. See all the way to the left, California. California is also a free state. I got to get my coffee. California is also a free state, and California had some of the most rigid laws against slaves and slavery. And the reason for that in California was the same reason that we see it and excuse it today in trafficking or whatever else we excuse it in. And that is because it was beneficial. It was beneficial to not have blacks enslaved, but it was beneficial to go ahead and have these laws that would actually not only oppress blacks, but would end up therefore raising low-income whites. And that is the magic in the status quo, is that it could make a white person feel better while they are doing the work of a soldier to obliterate their competition. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we've got the top 1% making soldiers who will obliterate their competition. Who's the top 1% competition? It's the population. It's the populace, right? Look at the philosophers. Who's the enemy of the top 1%? It's the 99 or 98. Split them up, split them up, split them up, split them up, split them up. I want to know who's in the top, and I want to know who's the bottom. No gray area, no middle class. Now we get them to annihilate one another. This is Dr. Annette Feravich, and we are talking about what is slavery, and we are talking about American slavery in order to move to trafficking and what is freedom. Let me show you one more thing. I was going to get my coffee, wasn't I? And now I'm going off the air, and I didn't show you the thing I wanted. Let's look at this. Look at the percentages there. So there's the total population, and then the percent enslaved by state there in the South, which is why you've got a pie chart on the enslaved states. The pie chart shows you how many people are enslaved. You can see Washington, D.C., 7% of the population is enslaved there. So, and next to D.C. there, you can see, I'm gonna add a circle there. So here's the area I'm talking about. Okay, I can't do it. Well, I can turn it. Hold on, which I am going to turn. Right here. So there's DC, and there is. You can see a dollar sign with a mark through it. So no money there. So in that video that we heard, they are struck by the lack of freedom in DC. Let's look at it again. Oh, why did I add that there?
Slavery is very much in evidence in the nation's capital, and not a few foreign visitors make note of the fact that they come to the seat of American freedom and they are struck by the presence of American slavery.
They come to the seat of American freedom and are struck by the presence of American slavery. They come to the seat of American freedom in Washington, D.C. They come to the seat of American freedom and are struck by the presence of American slavery, which is why you see the dollar sign there. Let me actually get that up there. Sorry. I brought it up in a different place, which is why you see that dollar sign there in Washington, D.C. So that dollar sign there, I got to bring up the O again too, which is an O. It's not a, wish I could draw on these things, but I cannot. But I can add the letter O, which is why you see the dollar sign there with the cross through it. What was that with the X out mark? That is when they stopped slave trade in D.C. Why did they stop the slave trade in D.C.? Because they went to the seat of American freedom and they were struck by the presence of American slavery right there in D.C. This is Dr. Annette Feravich, where we will continue to talk about our history of slavery in this country in order to better understand in this critical thinking classroom who we are. Thanks for joining me. I will see you tomorrow.